Okay, cool. All right, cool. So, you showed the property. It's in Hamilton, right?
Yes.
And let's pull it up. I'm guessing it's. Let me share my screen that way you see as I do things. I'm guessing you did it on Garden State MLS.
No, not Garden State. The Bright MLS.
Okay, what's the address? Let me just see if it's in here.
221 Shiwala Boulevard.
How do I spell that?
I'm sorry, WALLA Boulevard.
Okay, this is the property, right? Yeah, it's on Bright MLS. And it's not on the other one. Okay. Yeah, so I always check to see first what MLS it's on. In this case, I myself don't use Bright MLS just because I'm never really down there, but
Can I give maybe my password and my stuff and then
no, I can access it. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Let me just pull it up. Bright, right?
Bright MLS, yeah.
Okay, so let's do login.bright.com/login. Okay, perfect.
NJ NJME 202.
All right, so we're gonna pull up the address. Just want to look at a couple of things. So when you're preparing to make an offer, you want to have some context. Does this pop up here? No listing was found. Okay, let me just copy.
I can give you you
Yeah.
have the
Yeah, so I usually just search it up. It's easy to search it up on Zillow, and then it'll usually have it right there. So, okay, the first thing you want to do is see like days on market, because that'll kind of tell you what leverage position you're in. Um, and what do I mean by that is that if the property is brand new, freshly listed on the market, they're not going to be. It doesn't matter if it's overpriced, right? At the end of the day, they might end up with a lot less. But if it's brand new on the market, there's really no motivation for the seller to take a low ball offer, because they're just gonna kind of feel like, no, you know what, I haven't tested the market yet, so thanks for the offer, but no. Or here's my counter to you, and you take it or leave it. So here we have days on market, 8 days, which is only a week. So I would tell you that I don't think it makes sense to come in below asking because of that. Now the recent change, well, yeah, it's 8 days, so it became a new active. It was listed as a coming soon, and it went into active. So it's had some exposures. Like sometimes you'll see on Zillow, it'll say time on Zillow. It actually just says 7 days. Some people will put the coming soon time for like a week, and then it gets listed, and then it's active for like, let's say, 3 days. But on Zillow, it might show like on Zillow for 10 days, but in reality it's not 10 days. It's only been active for 7. So that's something else that you have to check when you're looking at like the days on market. So right off the back, I'll tell you that I don't think you should go below asking if they really want the house. In most markets, it mattered to do comps, right, to see what the house is worth before we offer. The sad reality of this market is that honestly, like, you could show them comps and it doesn't matter, because there's such a poor amount of inventory out there that it's like you can't even argue. It is what it is. Like, you got to try to offer what they're asking, but the key is not to waive the appraisal contingency. In the contract, you're going to see that there's a lot of contingencies in there. When you're doing a mortgage, there's an appraisal contingency attached to it for the most part. So you can offer what they're asking, and if they feel like, oh, but I don't know, like, are the comps there? You kind of tell them, look, we really got to try, because if you really want the house in this market, there's not a lot of inventory, so we have to try. but you're protected because you're going to have an appraisal. If the house does not appraise at the value, you don't have to agree to pay more than what it's actually worth. So you can say, look, I could do comps for you, but at the end of the day, my comps mean nothing to the seller. If they want that price, they want that price. So the question really becomes not how much is it worth, but how much are you willing to pay? So you got to look at the price and say, okay, these are the numbers. Here's the taxes. Here's how much my mortgage is going to be. You can ask them to talk to their mortgage rep. So I use my mortgage rep, and before I send an offer, I usually send him an email with the clients involved. And I said, hey, Kyle, I'm going to make an offer on this property. The property taxes are X amount. Could you tell me how much their offer, their monthly payment would be at? And I usually give them like two numbers, like, you know, either right above asking, depending on the condition. Like, let's say it's a brand new listing or whatever. You say, look, at this price, or give me also the max. So I tell them with these property taxes, what's the max that my client can afford? And then he'll give me both numbers, and then he'll give me the monthly payment. And then that I have a pretty good conversation with my client about, hey, look, you know, put aside what it's worth. We're going to let the appraiser deal with that. How much are you willing to pay? This is how much your monthly mortgage would be. You've seen the house. Are you willing to pay that much for that house? And if the answer is yes, then that's kind of like, okay, then let's move forward. Let's try to get it. And then if the answer is no, it doesn't matter what it's going to appraise at, because you might not get the offer accepted. At that point, they might say, you know what, I'll only pay up to $2,300 a month for that house. You can reverse engineer it and say to the lender, hey, they only want to pay $2,300 a month for the house. How much would that offer look like? Right? That's one way to go about it. In markets prior, yeah, I would look at comps, and then I would submit my offer. And sometimes I would even give the listing agent, like, hey, here are my comparable sales to justify our price. And then they could present that to the seller when they're trying to pitch the offer. Those days haven't been around for like 3 or 4 years. So that's kind of like where we are right now. We'll come back to that at some point, just not right now. So when it comes down to price, if it's been a week on the market, your best bet is to try to give them the asking. Let me look at something. And I'm not familiar with Bright too much, but this is something that I do. Residential sale. Okay, so let's do the address. 221 Chihuahua Boulevard, Hamilton. And let's look within 1 mile. And then we're gonna look at nothing there. Let's look at solds only. So closed in the last 180 days, so 6 months. And then we're just gonna search. There's 51 matches. Okay. So what I do is, let's take the price. How do I sort by price in this MLS? And again, just bear with me because I don't really use this MLS. Oh, there we go. So I usually sort by price because it's gonna show you. This doesn't show you DOMs. Damn. Okay, give me 1 second. Change it one line. Set defaults. Okay, so in most of these, I'm able to run average days on market on the side, and then sales price compared to list price. So here you'll see the price, and then you'll see if it sold for higher than it listed or lower. So any red arrow pointing up, it means the house sold for more than what it was listed at. Any green arrow pointed down means that it sold for less. So what do you see primarily? Red arrows, right? Especially in the price point. I mean, if you're looking at 269 and you're coming down here, right? So look, pretty much everything here. So let's look at like the 260 range. All right. And then we go and we look at, let's see, the original price was 239. That's the original listing. And then the sales price was 260. Okay. So this was listed for 270. This one was listed for 240 and it sold for 260. All right. So that's one. Now let's look at a previous one. This one right here was listed for 275 and it sold for 280. Right. Now let's look at the next one. This one was listed for 265 and it's sold for 280, right? So one of the things that I do with my clients when they're like, you have sometimes clients that don't want to offer more than what they're asking. It's like, oh, if they're asking this, why would I pay them over it? Some people just don't get how the market moves. So these good data points to show them, like, look, every single house in this price point, because it matters the price point, right? In the $1 million range, those houses usually take longer to sell, so they're negotiable to a certain percentage down. In the lower price point, those houses usually have a ton of buyers and they sell for over. Okay, so that's important to show them. The other factor becomes days on market is 7 days. Views, 1,400 views, and saves 81 saves. That's a lot. If you look at those numbers, in only a week, you're having 1,400 people look at it, and 81 people are showing interest in even seeing it, right? Now, I'm talking about all this before I even get into the contract, just because you don't want to write up the contract and spend so much time writing it up if you know it's not going to get accepted, right? Obviously, if our client wants to, we'll do it. But you want to have an intelligent conversation. When you tell them, listen, this is what I think you should offer, you don't want to just seem like you're trying to sell them or you're trying to make them pay something. You want to give them the rationale behind it. Right, so let's see what these numbers are. Like 1,400 views and 81 saves. This is Hamilton. That's that property. This one close by. Look at this. This has been on the market for 63 days. Has 845 views. So about half of the views and only 7 saves. And it's got a renovated kitchen. Right, it's got updated flooring. So yeah, that property is hot, and it's close. Right, just looking at one. Let's look at another just in case. Been on the market for 174 days. It has less saves and it's been on the market for half a year, right? Less views in total. So when you're trying to show them kind of market activity, that's important. That's an important factor to discuss. This house right here, 49 days, only 507 views and 32 saves. So this property is super hot right now based on these metrics, right? Very, very hot. So coming in under asking is just not advisable. And you want to have that in your mind. Now, the other thing you could do, have you talked to this agent yet?
Not really.
Okay, no problem.
I did talk briefly, but not too much.
All right, so let's do this here. I hope she answers, he or she. I'm gonna call and I'm gonna pretend like it's my client. And I'm gonna show you pretty much what I ask and what I try to get out of them. Again, I'm not familiar with this MLS, so I'm just looking for the listing info here. This listing agent, Shani. Let's see, it's 7:30 p.m. Let's see if they answer. Shani, 609 635 8890.
Hello,
Hi, is this Shani?
speaking.
Hey, Shani, this is George Castles with Lifestyle International Realty. How are you tonight?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
This is George Castles with Lifestyle International Realty. How are you tonight?
Fine, thank you.
Good, good. Shani, I was calling about your listing, 221 Shawala Boulevard in Hamilton.
Okay.
My client is really interested in making an offer, so I'm gonna be preparing something, and I just wanted to check with you if there was any specific terms that you're looking for. What's the situation with the seller, closing date, things like that.
So the closing date, the seller does need a little time.
Okay.
Doesn't want it to be like so probably October should be fine. Like sometime in October, like the not after the first week, so around the 15th of October.
Okay.
And the seller, of course, it says the buyer's responsible for the CO.
I saw that.
Yeah, we do. So we're asking for best offers tomorrow by 2:00.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. Just the buyer's responsible. Make sure you write that on there.
For sure. Yeah.
And then also that's probably the best closing date for the buyer.
Okay. Okay. I understand that. No problem. May I ask how many?
Is your client FHA?
I'm looking to see. I'm pretty sure they could do conventional as well. So let me just double confirm with my client, because obviously we want to present the strongest possible offer. You think there's going to be an issue with an FHA appraisal?
Well, you showed the house, right?
Yeah. Well, my agent went to go show it, and I'm helping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a house, they're
Yep.
cute things. I mean, I don't have a problem with FHA. It's just, you know, I don't know about.
Yeah, I didn't see any chip and paint or anything like that our appraisers would
Yeah,
bug
there
with.
is. There's like a whole. You didn't
Oh,
see the
yeah.
garage? Yeah.
No, I didn't see it on the pictures. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, for sure. The garage is all chipped. The front of the garage.
No worries.
It's like, the house is completely livable, but that's the only, you know, that small things.
Yeah.
FHA.
Yeah, I know they could be sticklers for it. You know, sometimes what I do with my FHA clients, I'll get them to agree to a certain budget and just like tell you guys, like, look, we'll take care of any items up to X amount.
Yeah, no, yeah, I've done it before too, but not in this case, probably not.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You got other
But,
stronger offers?
It's not a big deal. It's just the thing, but I mean, I've been in this business for a while, and that, they don't, but they won't let that slide.
I understand. How many offers do you have now?
I have got a few.
Okay. And
But like I said, she hasn't decided anything yet, you know, so they all just really came in, had a few, but so yeah, everybody has a chance, but just make it your best.
absolutely no problem. Now, because I'm not really from the area, in your expertise, what do you think the max appraisal price on this house will be?
You know what, I don't know. I think it's an appraise. I mean, I don't think you pay price under, you know, it's priced very reasonable, so.
Yeah, I agree. I just wanted to know if we come in.
Definitely the houses around there, if you look at the houses around there, they've all sold for more, like the ones that Thompson looked at were like definitely more than that, so.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out if, like, let's say we go 15K over the price, or you think we'll have an issue with the appraisal?
I don't know about 50K. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Okay. No, I know. Thank you for anyway trying to answer the questions.
You never know. These appraisers, you just don't
I
know. What
know.
do.
I hear you. Well, I appreciate your time so much. Thank you. I'll be preparing something and hopefully reach out to you again.
Yeah, thanks.
Be well.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye. All right. So 3 minutes of conversation. We got a lot of information. This is why we do this, right? And the questions that I asked are usually a little vague, and then I usually get a little more specific towards the end after I hear. The important thing when you're asking these questions to the agent is to be very, very attentive to what they say and try not to talk so much. If they're talking, let them talk, because they'll tell you sometimes more than they need to. I didn't get too much out of her, but I'll tell you a couple things, right? One is there's multiple offers. You're not coming in under asking. If your clients don't want to make asking or above, tell them don't waste their time. There's a highest and best situation for tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Okay, so we have to submit an offer like tonight or tomorrow morning. We'll have to at least prepare it. So that's one. The second thing is this: the time frame is hugely important. That I usually ask them like very generally, like, hey, any terms, closing day, anything specific. In this case, there was, right? She said October. So what I would ask your client right now is like, hey, are you guys okay to close in October? Like, what's your situation? Are you leasing? Are you on a month to month? Do you have to get out by a certain date? Are you just living with parents or family and waiting? Like, that's very important, because when we present the offer, since she said that that's an important term, guess what? We're going to talk about that. And we're going to say, hey, I'd love to present this offer to you. By the way, my clients do not have anything to sell, and they're living with families, so they are flexible with their closing date. We'll offer you an October 15th closing like we discussed. However, if your client needs more time or less time, we'll be ready and we can wait, right? So that amount of information has won offers for me where I've been not the top bidder, but the other people either don't ask the question about closing date or their clients are in a bind, right? So imagine if I don't ask her that question, you just submit an offer and your client has to be out by September 15th, right? And then you find out that they need to push it out, it can be a problem. So those are the two most important things that we just got out of it. Now, towards the end, I always ask that, hey, I'm not from the area, but if I am from the area, I say, look, I'm from the area, but I want to know, when you were doing the comps for your listing price, what do you think realistically is the max that it could appraise at? And sometimes agents will tell me a number, especially if they've already received offers. They have those numbers in their head. So sometimes they'll say to me, oh, it's 270, but we've gotten 300 and I think we can hit it. I've had agents slip and say that. So I asked that question to hear them out. They're not supposed to tell me, right? Because it lessens the client's, the seller's negotiation point. But I always try to ask questions around it. I have agents that call me on my listings and they'll tell me, hey, I know you're not supposed to say it, but can you tell me how much you got? Like, that's, to me, is very stupid, because you're telling me, right? If you just ask me, I might slip. Like, you might catch me doing something else and I might say, but that's what I asked. Now, when she's not really giving me information, she told me she thinks it's going to appraise at that price. So that also tells me that the offers aren't too far higher. Because And I could be wrong, right? I could be misreading here, but this is all the information we have. So it's also telling me that maybe they're higher, but they're not much higher. She is saying the houses around it are selling higher, which we saw. Some of those houses were selling higher than that. But then when I asked her, like, hey, do you think it's gonna appraise for 15K over the asking? She was like, well, I don't know about that.
Right.
In her head, that seemed to be a lot, right? So I would say, ask your clients how much they really want the house.
Yes.
And I would say probably my offer would be
A little bit higher, right?
yeah, I would say 15K over asking. And then just you could say to them, look, I had a conversation with the agent. Now she couldn't disclose what it was, but I got the feeling that if we came at 15K over the ask, that we'll get it because that seems to be like the top of what she's getting. If I go in 5 or 10, maybe we're right on par with others. Remember, most agents function at 5 or 10K intervals. So a lot of people, when they want to be competitive, an agent will just say 10, right? They'll go 10 over. Which is why when I have the feeling like if she says, oh, we got tons of offers, I can't even keep track of it, but that I'm throwing and saying, hey, do you think it's gonna price for 30K over? That's usually how I gauge what number I throw at them. So in this case, I would probably say that that's that. Now I made a mistake, and obviously it's not my client and I didn't show it, but typically I would know the answer to a lot of these things, right? So she asked me, are they FHA? I don't even know. Are they FHA?
You know what? The thing is, the mortgage lender is a family member, so he's very negotiable. So he's working direct with the bank. I just asked him the question, like this is my third time asking him, but he hasn't responded. But he told me that they can go as high as 275, but he was trying to maintain it between the 250.
Yeah, so I mean, the question is really, can they go FHA or conventional or both?
Yeah.
Because the price point is not as important as the loan type in this case. Because what's going to happen is, let's say she has 5 offers and one of them is conventional, and she already, like, another thing I got out of that conversation, she was already very adverse to FHA. She's like, I know they're going to give me problems. So what she's going to say is the same exact thing. So what I would say to the lender at this point is like, look, I'm submitting an offer. I'm submitting it tonight. I need you to tell me if they can go conventional, and I need you to tell me if it works at 285. Right now, it sounds like it's a bit of a problem because a family member. One thing I would definitely advise the clients.
Oh, he did say, he just responded right now. FHA, he said.
Okay. The follow-up question is, can they go conventional?
Okay, hold on.
One. So you want to find out if they can, because just because a lender gives you an FHA approval doesn't mean that they have to. A lot of times lenders just do it because the rate is lower, their affordability is higher. Because that's an income ratio for FHA is allows a higher purchase price than it's an income ratio for a conventional. So sometimes they won't do it. But it does sound like the lender is probably not the best person to do it. Just because it's family doesn't, you should definitely, advise them to work with somebody that you've already closed deals with, or that somebody that has closed deals with. Okay, so that being said, if you can go conventional, try to find out if they could go for the price. My feeling, if he was trying to stick to 250 in FHA, is that they probably can't go conventional, or if they could go conventional, they're probably going to be maxed out at like 200, based on what I'm hearing. So that might not work out, right? Now that we know that, and we know her adversity to FHA, what I would suggest is talking to the client and saying, hey, the agent is very concerned about an FHA appraisal. Why? Because if there's chipping paint or there's issues with it, the FHA appraiser is going to ask you to do it. Now, we do know, and you see, again, I didn't know this because I didn't show it, but typically you would be doing that call and you wouldn't know. We do know that garage door has chipping paint. So I would have a conversation with the client and say, look, I think that for you to get this offer accepted, because we know that there's an issue and we know that she's adverse to it, we have to offer to paint the garage door prior to the appraisal. Okay, now that's a risk, right? Because they don't own the house and they're getting ready to spend money on it. How much it would cost to sand and paint that garage door? You're probably talking anywhere between $600 to $1,000. So that's kind of like a ballpark. I usually try to give them a higher number just in case if it's lower, they'll be happy. If it's higher, then they're not happy. So I would be like, look, it's probably about $1,000, but I would tell them if they want a really good chance of getting their offer accepted, tell them that you'll do FHA, and if any problems arise from the FHA appraisal, they'll cover them up to, let's say, $5,000, right? Now your client has to be okay with that, but right now we're trying to make lemonade out of lemons, right? Like you have the lemons that were dealt to you, and you're trying to get this offer accepted. It's not impossible, but it is a bit of a fight, and this is where you really have to get creative as an agent to create these terms. So price is important. We got a good idea of price. So let's try to sell them on the price. And then when they did the pre-approval, the lender doesn't know the exact property taxes. So he might have done pre-approval with 8,000 in property taxes, and he told you it's going to be like 250. But if you tell him that the taxes are 56.90, that purchase price can go up. So send him also the property taxes and say, hey, these are the property taxes. Can we do 285? That's an important factor. Okay. Now that's on price. That's the main thing. The second thing is closing date. We have a good idea. We're going to put the offer in for October 15th as a closing date, and we're telling them that we're flexible. So what I usually start doing is I'll start writing, and let's just go here and let's go here. So I'm going to write an email, and it says, well, I'm not going to write it. I'm just going to make some notes. So price, I'm thinking 15K over. And then closing, we're doing, let's say 10-15, 22, flexible. You got to ask. So remember, all of these terms, we got to get our client to accept it. Right now, we're doing reconnaissance, and then we'll get the client to accept it, and then we'll prepare the offer. So it's like preparation, reconnaissance, discussion, agreeance, and then preparing, and then setting. Closing, flexible, and then we also want you always read the notes, right? In this particular case, it said on here specifically when we were talking, the agent remarks, home is being strictly sold as is, and the buyer is responsible for township CO. So your client has to accept those terms. If they're not okay with the price, we know they're not going to get it. If they're not okay with the closing date, they're probably not going to get it. If they're not okay with these terms, they're not going to get it. These are the things we have to discuss. So responsible for CO. Now, your client might have some questions like, hey, what does it mean strictly as is? So strictly as is means that the seller is not willing to do any repairs. However, this is a very important distinction. They still have a home inspection contingency. Well, what does that mean? You're accepting the house as is means that you're not asking for repairs, but you are going to have a home inspection. And if there are problems in the home inspection and you are not satisfied and they already said they're not going to do anything, doesn't mean you're stuck with this house. When we get that report, we can cancel the contract based on the home inspection contingency. So you are protected. Because the problem is a lot of buyers that are first-time home buyers, they'll think, oh, I'm taking the house as is. I could have a foundation problem and then I'm committed to it, right? That's not true. As is just means that you're not going to request repairs, but you do have a home inspection contingency. Make sure you explain that. Next portion, the CO. You've never done a CO, right? So a CO is a certificate of occupancy inspection. Some municipalities are very tough with COs. Some municipalities are very easy. I've sold, I think, 1 or 2 houses in Hamilton. I listed one. I honestly don't remember how the CO process was. Let me just pull up. Let me try to find it real quick and see if I have the CO report here. Control F, Hamilton. 717 Schiller. No, I don't have the CO report. So what I would recommend is I would call the municipality, call Hamilton Township, ask, you know, if you don't know what department, sometimes it's under the health department, sometimes under the building department, sometimes they have a separate code enforcement department. So I would just call the clerk's office and say, hey, can I speak to the person who handles CO inspections? And then, you know, you get transferred over and then you ask them, you know, what kind of items are we looking for in CO in Hamilton? Some of them will say, look, you just need to have a smoke detector and you need to have the fire extinguishers all in the right placement. Those are easy, right? Because they're not going to bother you about the condition of the home. They're just going to care about life safety stuff. Some of the municipalities will tell you, oh, we're very strict. We have a whole nuisance code and you have to make sure that all the things are to par. And then ask them, okay, where can I find that nuisance code? And you can find it. I mean, I wouldn't say to read it, but if you say it's pretty extensive, you know, some municipalities care about ripped screens. Some municipalities care about, you know, if the sidewalk's not even, they'll make you even it out. Like they get very, very strict. And other municipalities, all they check is for the fire safety issues, and they check for make sure that nothing was done without permits. Right. So if they tell you, oh, we're checking that everything was made with permits, before you get your client to accept to be responsible for the CO, ask the seller's agent, hey, is there anything done without permits? That's important, right? So you ask that, you find out. Beyond the CO component, we'll go into the contract and kind of like see what, just go here, add. So with the contract, we can see what other, I'm just going to use one of the contracts that I have right now, and then we'll go in there and create a new one for you. This is a purchase contract that I have. I'm going to go kind of quickly through it. I'm actually doing a training on September 7th, I believe. I'm going to send the invite out. Me and an attorney breaking down this whole contract, every single clause, and showing you what's negotiable. But quickly now, you can see kind of like information. The price is obviously negotiable. The amount of the deposit is negotiable. When we actually start writing the contract, I'll tell you how to do that. Deposit, escrow, who's holding the escrow, type of loan. All right, there's nothing else here that we could ask. How fast they're closing, sufficient assets, inclusions or exclusions, we'll look in a second. The CO, if you're being responsible, if the buyer's being responsible for the CO, I would also put a cap on it. So say, look, yeah, we'll be responsible for a CO up until, let's say, $1,000. If the cost for the CO exceeds $1,000, then we're out. Be mindful that every protection to the buyer is a not favorable term to the seller, right? The more protected the buyer is, the less protected the seller is. So if somebody's coming in and say, hey, we'll be responsible for CO, period, and you're coming in and say, we'll be responsible for CO up to $1,000, and every other term is about the same, they're probably going to like the person that's not limiting the CO. So you got to straddle that fine line between, look, I want to get your offer accepted for my client, but I also need to protect you as your agent, right? So it's a fine line. Some agents go to the extreme and say, look, by all means necessary, we're going to get this offer accepted. And then they commit their clients to stuff that they are not protecting them for. The key to this is information. If they're willing to do something, it doesn't matter if you think it's extreme. As long as you explain to them the risks, if they're willing to take that, that's on them. And you just need to make sure you're doing a good job of explaining it, right? So that's, if you are going to put a cap, we put a cap here. Municipal assessments, quality of title, possession. Yeah, it's going to be empty. So we'll go into all of these items when we're actually writing the offer, but I just want you to go to the client and talk to them about these items that we just discussed. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So for now, let's stop here. Why don't you contact the client? I'm going to send you an email, or you probably have these items right here. Essentially, you're going to ask them for 4 things. One, the price. If we can't get past this price, if they say, you know what, I'll do 10K over, I'm not going to do 5K over, fine, I think we should still do it. If they say 5K over, I'd say, look, they have multiple offers. They have, it's not going to work. If you want me to write it, I'll write it up. I'm just telling you, don't get your hopes up kind of thing, right? If they say we're going under asking, then forget it. Don't even bother. It's a brand new house on the market. Everything's going over asking. She already kind of explained to us that there are houses going over asking, so I feel like they are. The closing, ask them if they're flexible on it, or do they have a hard deadline by which they have to close. If they say no, I got to be in there by September 15th, then say, guys, this isn't the house for you, because they're not going to be able to do that. The other, with the closing date, if they come back to you and say, look, it's really strict, I have to close by this date because, let's say, I want to quit my job and I'm quitting on this day, and they need to get their mortgage beforehand. That's the type of situation where you could say, okay, well, you can close on the property and keep the tenant there, and maybe they pay you monthly rent for that extra month. You do what's called a use and occupancy agreement. Let's not try to go down that road. Let's gauge them. Every problem has a solution. You should just go engage them on these 4 items and then come back to me. And then let's see if there's a problem, I'll help you get over it. If not, then we can proceed to offer it. And then the last thing is the conversation about the CO. Any questions before you call them?
No. So it's the price, right? Closing date. And did you say the as is? And
yeah. Home being sold strictly as is, and then explaining to them that they still get the right to do a home inspection, and if there is a major problem, they can still cancel.
Okay.
And the last thing is being responsible for the CO. And then if they ask you how involved is the CO, be honest with them. Say, look, I haven't done a CO in Hamilton. I'm going to call first thing in the morning and find out. But typically all they check for is life safety issues and then problems with the house. the house doesn't seem like it has problems. But we do know that because of their FHA, and let's loan terms, FHA or conventional, right? You're gonna ask about that. You're gonna say, look, I'm gonna check with your lender to see if we can go conventional. If we can't go conventional and we do go FHA, we've already identified that there's gonna be a problem. So if you are going FHA, you have to be willing to paint that garage door because the seller doesn't want to handle that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So give them a call, and then let me know. Text or call me, and then we'll hop back in here, and we'll continue for this. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem.